All right. Welcome to episode number 6 of the Podshit Nerdcast with Brett Scott and Justin Logan. And today, we're going to be doing, what is our top 5? Top 5 historical figures that you would bring back. And,
All right. Well, let me interject on that.
you want to clarify?
Historical. I mean, it doesn't have to be people that were of great importance, really, but just people that have died that you would resurrect that are at the very least famous.
Oh, wait.
But in some way, you feel that they added something.
Wait a minute. Did I not specifically ask you if they could be celebrities, and you said no, historical
You
figures?
didn't ask that.
Yes, I did.
I'm calling shenanigans.
Okay, you can call your message history on Facebook and look through it because I said just historical figures, or can they be like celebrities? Like, can we do celebrities? And you're like, no, historical figures. I'm like, all right.
That doesn't sound like me.
Well, that's what. So, because mine would have probably been all like musicians and actors and directors and stuff.
You know what? All right. I'll go first with these new rules if you want to amend yours. Will that work?
No, I don't want to amend mine, man, because I'm just gonna stand by what you said.
Oh, God, now I've got to amend mine.
Wait,
I can't go back on it.
wait a minute. How many people outside of historical figures do you have on your list? Is it like
Two?
Okay, so it probably wouldn't be hard for you to come up with 2 other historical figures. I have a little story to tell anyway.
All right.
Not a story to tell, but stuff to talk about, and you can do that while I'm doing that.
Okay.
Okay. So, today, Eva has been giving me shit about... Let me just ask you a question. Because I thought I should talk about this on here. I was looking for things that we could talk about before the top 5, and I couldn't think of anything, but then I realized I'm having this ongoing conversation with my wife that is perfect, so... let me ask you something. What do you call the place where you eat your food in your house?
The kitchen?
Okay. What do you call the place where you sit and like where you put your food and you eat?
The table?
What kind of table is it though? What table?
That's a kitchen table.
Is it not?
Oh, wait, what is she saying?
Well, she I mean, she's totally in the right here, but I just think it's funny that she cares so much because I always say like I constantly say the kitchen. Like I'll tell the kids like they'll be in the living room with food. I'll be like, no, go out to the kitchen and eat, or like go sit in the kitchen, or like, whatever. Do your homework at the kitchen table, right? But it's not a kitchen, Justin. It's a dining room. The dining room sits adjacent to the kitchen, and it is not the kitchen. And that's very important. It's a dining room, and it's a dining room table. It is not a kitchen table. And I said, I said that well, kitchen table is kind of a normal thing, like in at least like the American lexicon. Like people say, oh, we started our business around the kitchen table. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
this business got off the ground, started right there at my kitchen table, So, I don't know. It's always been there. And then when I was a kid, the house I grew up in until I was like 11, there was no dining room. Like, the table was in the kitchen. It was literally the kitchen table. And we ate dinner in the kitchen. So I'm like stuck. Like, I'm stuck on saying that. And it's really hard for me to say, like, go sit in the dining room, or like the dining room table or whatever. And it gets me into trouble sometimes with the kids because they're smart asses because they're 8 years old now. And so I'm like, go sit in the kitchen, and they'll go like They'll be like, "Oh, kitchen, okay," and they'll go sit in the kitchen, like in front of the refrigerator. So I get it. It is important that I'm specific with the kids. However, it's really hard for me. Like, it's really hard
Oh man,
to say dining room.
it's just splitting hairs.
Yeah, that's what I thought. But it's important. It's important.
But I mean, it honestly. Okay, so yeah, she's right. She's calling it the correct room, but
Yeah.
it's still the table that services the kitchen.
Well, yeah, I have no illusions that I am actually, like, technically wrong here. I am in the wrong, but it just feels right to say kitchen, and it's really hard for me to say anything different. And not only my house, but my grandma's house was the same way. Like, she had one of those really big open kitchens, and the table was in the kitchen. Like, and I think that a lot of houses in the United States, at least, are like that, or like were built like that back in maybe the, I don't know, 40s or 50s. Like, just like basements used to exist, and now they're like a commodity. Like, having the place where you eat be in the kitchen, I think, is like a common thing in a lot of houses. Or maybe it might just be the Midwest, I don't know. But where I grew up, it seemed like that. A lot of people ate in their kitchen. But like, to Eva, that's weird. She thinks it's weird that people would ever eat in the kitchen. I'm like, no, we did, and my grandma did, and that's why people say kitchen table. Like, it must be a thing, or that wouldn't be a phrase, kitchen table. No one, like, it is a thing, right? Like, people say kitchen table. That's a thing. Yeah. So, anyway, I just think that she's just riding my ass about it because I always get it wrong. Like, we were talking about where I was going to record this podcast, and I was like, well, I can record it in the kitchen if you want. And, like, I get it. In her head, like, since she has always had a dining room and always said dining room growing up and through her whole life, it seems really weird for someone to want to do something in the kitchen other than make food. Like, if I was like, I'm going to eat my dinner in the kitchen, she'd be like, that's kind of weird. Why wouldn't you sit in the dining room? So I get it. But I just think it's really funny. And it's really hard for this. It's really hard for me to change my language.
Yeah, I don't know. It's a hardwired thing. It's going to take 10 years to change. And then by that time, everyone's just going to make fun of you. Like, yeah, my dad always said kitchen table, even though it wasn't even in the kitchen, and they're going to think it's hilarious.
Oh, I know that.
It's going to be one of your dadisms.
Yeah, I was thinking about that earlier. I was like, you know what? That's like my old man thing. Like, people were like that's like me calling a couch a Davenport. So maybe like, go, hey, get your feet off the Davenport. Or the,
man.
what's the other name for a refrigerator or a freezer? There's like a name like
icebox.
Icebox? Is that what it? I thought there was like because people used to call things by their brand names.
Oh, the Frigidaire?
Maybe the Frigidaire. And then, let's see, I think, a lot of people call, like, recliners lazy boys. They just automatically.
Yeah,
a lot of people,
the Band-Aid Q-tip thing.
Yeah. That's what I was thinking of, like, where people confuse the brand name. Like, God, man, that is such damn good branding. If the entire culture calls the thing by your company name, like, that is, if you can achieve that, you have, like, ultimate branding abilities.
Well, like, if you could go back in time to, like, 98 or whenever, and you could start the first podcast, and it'd be a Scott cast at this point.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. Like, I was like, you wouldn't even have to start the first one. It's like, I'm sure Davenports weren't the first fucking couches.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It was just a brand that everyone, like, got to know. It was so popular that it was like, oh, you mean the Davenport? Like, isn't that crazy, though? Isn't that crazy to change the name of a household item to the name of the company that makes it? That's crazy.
Yeah.
Like a Band-Aid. That clearly, if you take it away from what you already picture in your head when you say Band-Aid, it's clearly the name of a company. Like, it doesn't sound anything like what it actually is.
Just like Oreo, like what was it, like Hydrox or some shit was the first one.
Oh yeah. But
Oreo blew them out of the water.
Yeah, and people even call off-brand Oreos. They'll call them off-brand Oreos. Like they're not going to call them.
Even though that pisses me off. I'm like, that is not an Oreo.
No, that's one of the foods that they cannot duplicate. Like there are plenty of off-brand versions of shit that are really good, and I think, and they might not be exact, but they're still really good. Cereals a lot of time are pretty good at that, but like there are some things that are just not ever going like they're. I feel like a lot of things they're kind of like generic drugs where they're basically all the same ingredients, but they basically sell off the recipe to other people or whatever. They put it under a different name, like, but for some reason Oreos are not the same thing. And there's a couple of things like that. Like Oreos are not the same thing, and what else? What else is not the same as the original? Like you cannot duplicate it.
Dude, I have a story about Oreos.
Okay, shoot, do that.
All right, so I was probably I don't know, 13. My brother was younger than me. He was probably 8 or 9, and we had a plate of Oreos. We were sitting in the living room playing probably Mario 64 about that time.
Yeah, that'd be about right.
So I just started, while he was playing, I would take an Oreo off the plate and I would like throw it and hit him in the back of the head. Because, you know, it's a younger brother, that's like what you do.
Yeah, naturally.
So he would pick it up and he'd throw it back at me. So we do this several times. So my dad was about to walk in, so I grabbed all the Oreos real quick and I threw them back on the plate.
Mm-hmm.
And then he proceeded to come in and eat like 5 Oreos. So it was our little inside joke the whole time that he ate a whole plate of Floreos.
Oh,
we never told him about that shit.
It was a whole plate of trash, like dirty ass cookies.
They were everywhere. They were like in the like in the cushions of the couch, and like I got them back out and throw them, and oh god, it was so fucking gross.
And he never knew. You never told him the joke.
Stuff you never know, man.
Oh man, dude.
Like what have I eaten?
Exactly. What are your kids gonna do to you that you don't know about?
Oh god, what have they already done?
Oh my god, dude. I don't know why that kind of reminded me of this story where it was like the first time I ever smoked weed. I went to my friend's house and he just come back from Jamaica, and like he smuggled weed out of the country and brought it back, and it was the first time I smoked enough weed to actually get high. And me and him and one other guy, like his parents went out to a movie, so we all stayed the night at his house while his parents were out at the movie and dinner or whatever. And we just sat there on the deck and like smoked several joints, which is like strange. Okay, so like the first time you ever really get high, you're smoking several joints. It was really crazy. And drinking alcohol. Anyway, it was like a couple hours later. To us, it seemed like a day later, but in reality, it was probably 2 hours of fun that we had. And then we decided, like, you know, let's all like, we'll take showers and we'll get like any kind of smell off of us, and we'll just lay in bed and act like good kids, like we just went to bed early or whatever, which would be suspicious in itself. If a bunch of like 12-year-old, 13-year-old kids went to bed at like 9 o'clock at night during a sleepover. But so his parents come back from the movie, and then like we're all still awake, but we're like pretending we're asleep. We're laying in the dark in the bedroom, and like there's all this shuffling around, like his parents are making noise downstairs and stuff. And then about 30 minutes later, there's a knock on his bedroom door, and like his dad, like door creaks open, like, and he's like, "Hey guys, hey." We're like, "What's up?" And he goes, and he shows us that he has this big plate of brownies in his hand.
Oh god.
Yeah, he goes, "Guys, brownies." And we're like, what the hell is this, dude? Like, does he know? Like, how would that not set off, like, your paranoid radar? Like, does he know what's going on here? I almost feel like he had to, but at the same time, I don't think he did. I think he was just super naive. Like, and of course you would think that as a kid, but later as adults, we told his dad the story, and it seemed as though he never knew that. Like, he didn't remember it. He didn't, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It didn't stick out in his mind at all. So I don't think he knew at all. It was just this weird, like, this weird set of events, like, perfectly came together to where he brought us munchie food right when we needed it the most in the middle of the night. Like, it was so crazy. Anyway, I don't know why that reminded me of that. Because you were talking about your dad coming in the room and cookies. And I thought brownies. Anyway.
I think it's because, like, you're eating food and you just don't know the backstory.
Yeah. Anyway, do you want to go ahead and get into the top 5? Do you have your list sorted?
Good to go.
Okay. I'll let you go first.
Since you made me follow my own rules like an asshole.
Yeah, I know, dude. I know. Life's tough. It's like...
Alright, so, it's top 5. If we could just resurrect 5 historical figures.
Oh, I was curious about this. Is it... Now, when they come back, is it like they're coming back in the state that we lost them at? Or are they coming back... Or is it like they never died?
Okay. So, I'm saying like...
Or they already lived in our time? Or no, so you're bringing them back, right?
You're pulling them from their time, like...
Okay.
Their last healthy point, let's say that.
Cool.
So, like, if they exploded, like, the unexploded version.
Yes. Got you.
Okay. So, I'll go from 5 to 1.
Okay.
Okay. So, 5, the least important, but still top 5, is Jesus.
Okay.
Just so, because there's 2 things that's going to happen. Like, first, it's like, hey, here's a guy, and he's obviously just a guy, so that's kind of brain exploding for a lot of people.
But he's going to be making claims.
Well, yeah, it's not fake. That's a fake guy. It's not even a thing.
Right.
But at least I would know.
Right.
And then, he comes back and it's like, this motherfucker's magic. So then that would be even more brain exploding.
Wait a minute. So okay, he's just a guy. But you're saying he actually can do magic?
No, like, what I'm saying is, if I could resurrect actual, like a guy named Jesus, the one everyone's talking about, there's only 2 possibilities. I mean, I'm obviously leaning towards the first.
Oh, okay. So you're saying either way.
Either way, it's earth-shattering.
Gotcha.
At least to me, because everyone else will say this is bullshit, because why wouldn't you?
Right. Exactly. I thought the same thing. I actually almost put him on my list. I tried to steer clear of, like, super obvious ones. For one, because I thought you might choose them, but also because, like...
Yeah.
With Jesus, my thoughts were... I pretty much had it nailed. I think that he would probably... He would either be one of those, like, super, like, cringy guru guys. Like, that's how people would see him.
Mm-hmm.
Or he would be in a mental institution somewhere.
Oh, for sure.
Like, that's what it would be. Like, we wouldn't know who he was if he can't... You know what I mean? Because he'd just be locked in some mental institution.
But in my theory, my setup here, it's like, I'm imagining, like, you're in a lab, you tap the dates in and the last known coordinates, and the dude fucking appears, so and the people in the lab know.
Okay.
It's not like oh, there's a guy born claiming this.
Okay, so it would be like this big announcement on TV, like they have brought back Jesus in his true form.
Yes.
And everyone would be like, what the fuck? What's this guy about? Let's see what he's like.
Or it wouldn't even be announced. It'd just be like, you and the people in the lab get to know. Here it is.
Okay.
Like, it's not even for the world.
Justin,
necessarily. It's just so that way you know.
No, Justin, I feel like it would be announced.
Well, I mean...
If they resurrected
maybe.
Jesus Christ, you don't think it would be announced? It would be like the biggest story in the history of human beings.
It would be too sensational to believe, though.
Yeah, of course.
Why even announce it? You might as well not announce it. No one believes.
So what then? Then how would we even know about it?
I'm saying we're in the lab in this little scenario.
We're in the lab. We just want to chat with the guy. Like, he's not even a public... Like, we're not putting it out in the public, but here he is, and he's either doing fucking magic tricks for you, or he's just a crazy person.
Yeah.
Okay.
And you know. And then you
know. I think my disconnect here was that I was picturing in the scenario, like, these figures would be interacting with the world.
No, they can. This is my setup. Like, this is how I would do this one.
Okay.
Is all I'm saying.
Okay.
Like,
so it's a one-on-one.
There's no right way. There's no right way. I'm not, like, completely in control of this. It's just, hey.
Okay,
this is how I do this one.
So it's just one-on-one. Like, for you with Jesus, it's just hanging with Jesus.
Basically.
Okay.
Like, it's just a sandal guy, and he's just hanging out.
Sandal guy. Okay. So his sandals, like, when you resurrect, he has sandals on already? The sandals were resurrected as well?
Yeah,
okay.
For sure.
All right. Okay. I can believe that. I'll go with that.
And I guarantee you he's not blonde. Just guaranteed.
No, and he probably has...
That's stupid.
He probably has a bit of a darker complexion, too, I'd imagine.
Oh, for sure. He'd probably be on the no-fly list as well.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. We'd probably... that would probably be one thing, like, don't leave the lab because, like, they are doing some deportation shit right now. Like, ICE is... I don't think it would work out too well.
It's pretty hostile and your supporters hate you, so...
Yeah. And everyone who claims to follow you is actually doing the exact opposite of everything you prescribe, so it's probably best to stay in the lab.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
Alright, so Jesus, number 5.
Yes. Alright, so 4 would have to be Edison.
Okay.
Just because, what's he going to come up with modern technology?
Oh, shit.
Maybe nothing, maybe some craziness.
I didn't even think about that. Like, what could they accomplish now?
Yeah, he might make Elon Musk look like a retard. Hopefully.
Yeah, hopefully. I would hope so.
I mean, if you're going through the trouble of resurrecting Thomas Edison, you need to get something back.
Look, dude, would Edison smoke a blunt on the Rogan podcast, though?
If he knows what's good for ratings, he will.
Yeah. If he knows what's good for popularizing science.
I doubt Edison would be concerned with stock prices, so he'd probably go for it.
I don't know. He might. You don't know. That's what I'm saying. Put Edison in a modern day world. He might very quickly become concerned with stock prices and shit. Might start his own company. I mean, he did have his own company, right?
Yeah.
Like the very first ever electric company.
Yeah, I believe so.
He'd be like, "What's the stock on a fucking Edison running? I've been dead fucking 40 years. Like, I just curious what I'm worth."
Oh God! Like, I had a bank account with, solid $3 in there. It's got to be.
Yeah. Yeah, I had $16 that I'm kind of wanting to spend. I didn't really want to leave it in the account. Can't take it with you. You know what I'm saying?
And then you check it and you find out you're the world's first trillionaire.
Yeah, I believe it would be with Edison. Like, holy shit. If they, because I think it was called Edison Electric, right? Something like that?
Yeah. From what I remember. Something like that.
Yeah. Alright. Yeah, that's a really interesting one, man. Thomas Edison, that's a good one.
3 would be MLK because absolute composure. Like, I don't know. Everything's so crazy now, and it's hard for anyone to not lose their shit.
Yep.
This guy got blasted in the back of the head with a fucking brick and kept on going.
So, you think, I mean, you're already assuming that in the current climate, he would still remain the same MLK.
Yes.
I mean, because, if we really break it down...
It was worse then.
Yeah, it was much worse than, like, violence-wise, fearing for your life-wise, absolutely. So, you're right. Like, his like, right now, this shit would be, like...
Yeah.
This would be... It should be. However, I wonder if, like, it would be relative. Or if he would show up and be like, what the fuck? Like, this is lame. You guys call this, like... You guys call this, like, a... serious issues, you know what I mean? Like...
Yeah.
These are, like... I don't know.
I don't know. I feel like if you can take a brick to the head, a tweet's not going to do much.
True. Yeah. I always wondered that about these... That was one thing I was thinking of with my list. Is like, how would our current technology, like, the way we communicate now, which is drastically different. Like, we've changed the way we interact with people, not just physically, but just, like, in our heads. We as a culture, we've just so drastically changed the way we communicate. Like, they're, like, emojis are like a whole new language of their own.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, there's, like 4,000 of them now. They just added new ones.
Yeah, and they keep adding. Like, you remember when they still do this, but it was a bigger deal, like, when you were a kid. Do you remember, like, every year they added words to the dictionary?
Yeah.
And, like, sometimes they were, like, slang words or whatever that just became so commonly used that they added them to the language. And, like, yeah, emojis are that, dude. But not even that, because there's so many of them that you and I could literally have a conversation completely in emojis, and I guarantee we could figure out what each other was saying.
Yeah, and they're universal, so that's kind of cool.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It's a universal language because it's like hieroglyphs, but instead of just a small culture understanding them, like everyone. To this day, we don't know what some of the hieroglyphs mean, really. We have an interpretation of it, but there's really no mistaking it. When someone sends you, like a, I don't know, what's the eggplant? Somebody sends you an eggplant, you know what the fuck that is. Like, everyone does. And you know what's funny is, I'm sure it wasn't ever meant to be that originally, but we have made it that as a society. Like, that's what it means. That's what it is.
Yeah.
Like, so we speak a language inside of a language. It's like fucking eggplant is not eggplant.
Yeah.
Everybody knows it. So, but if someone found this, like, 100 years from now, they'd be like, why were they talking about fucking eggplants all the time and laughing about it? Like, it doesn't make any sense. But then it's like,
world's brightest minds in the year 3000. They're like, eggplant, water sploosh. I don't understand. Like, not even relevant to conversation.
Yeah. How is that? How does it? Maybe there was, and they would extrapolate like ridiculous things from that. So yeah, dude. Anyway, like, yeah, how would these historical figures interact in this society where everything is so drastically different? Like, back in the day, like, how easy is it to, compared to Martin Luther King Jr.'s day, to call out a political figure or something? Like, literally now anyone can do it. You don't even need prominence. If you say the right thing, everyone latches onto it and shares it and tells everyone else. Like, you know, and there's some things that Martin Luther King Jr. did that I'm sure no one heard about until well after he died, that, like, added to his legacy. But, like, if it was this day and age, we would have found out instantly.
Yeah.
It would have been like, MLK struck with brick in back of head. You know what I mean? And everyone would know like 5 minutes after it happened.
Yeah, we'd have video. We'd have vertical video shown on someone's phone.
Exactly. Yeah, that's... I actually thought this is one of your better suggestions for a list just because of, like, all the conversation that could come out of it. Like, because of how drastically different we are than any other period in history. Anyway.
Alright. So number 2.
No, 3.
No, that's 2 now, because it was Jesus, Edison, MLK.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
So 2 is George Washington, because a lot of people will be thinking like, oh my God, we're going to bring George Washington back.
Mm-hmm.
Well, let's see what he thinks about the country.
Uh-huh.
But what I'm thinking is, when he comes back, we're going to see that he was mostly stupid.
You think so?
I think by today's standards, like, his ideas are outdated, everything about him is going to be stupid, and he's going to be a major letdown. He's going to be wearing a powdered wig. We're going to what the fuck is this guy? Like, hey, we're basing it all around this.
This brings up something really interesting, though. Have you ever looked up, they actually have, I don't know how they did it, but at least, I don't know how long the IQ test has been around. Quite a long time, I would imagine, though. But maybe by deciphering their writings or language or something. But they have determined the IQ of all of the past presidents.
Oh God, where was Washington?
And you can look that up, and it's pretty decently high.
Really?
Yeah, like and
do you
and
think
some
it translates into modern.
Well, yeah, I think IQ is. I think IQ is kind of universal because IQ isn't based on what you know so much as how intelligent you are. Like, it's not. It's about how you think, not what you think. So, imagine a guy like Washington. Yeah, at first he might seem weird, but he might very quickly, like, say he was if he had a high IQ, for instance, he'd be able to quickly, like, make assumptions and, like, that made sense.
Yeah.
Like, he'd be able to come up with ideas that made sense by looking at our modern society and going, oh, well, now I think this and this and this. Like, but yeah, they've done that. You should look that up. Like, look up presidents.
I just can't see a guy like that accepting anything of today.
You don't think so?
Nah, I don't know. I mean, I don't know. Possibly. It'd be interesting.
Washington and John Adams were like rivals.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I don't know how much you know about that, but they had very different ideas of like what democracy should be and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And Washington was way more about liberty and individual liberty and stuff, and breaking away from the past. Basically, having our government be drastically different than a monarchy. Whereas Adams was still attached to the monarchical, like, societal idea of, like, basically worshiping the king and, you know, like, I watched, have you ever seen that HBO series of John Adams?
Who played him?
Paul Giamatti.
I may have seen some of it, yeah.
Anyway, it's really fucking good. I think it's like an 8-part series or something. And
I think I was wondering like why he wasn't playing like a band manager.
Exactly. That's the Paul Giamatti role for sure. A band manager, the weird friend of the main character of any film.
Well, like just the director of the radio station.
Yeah, exactly. Pig vomit.
Like, you goddamn motherfuckers.
You goddamn motherfuckers. No, he was really great as John Adams. And in that movie, or in that series, they showed his clashing with Washington, because basically they showed in that series from the very beginnings to the prelude to war up until his presidency. And his interactions with Washington when Washington were president were really telling. Like when the first ever time he was in the presence of the President of the United States, he bowed to him. Like that's just naturally what he thought to do. Because that's like the leader of our country. And Washington like literally corrected him. It was like, look, we don't, that is not required. We don't do that. You don't have to do that. And it's not really part of who we are anymore. Like it's not. It had to be made clear. Yeah. But he had a lot more ideas like that. Like he was more attached.
I'm not saying that there was no good ideas. Obviously, he came and got some shit done. But I just feel like overall, our romanticizing of people, especially from that far back,
is going
to let us down.
Sure, they had some shitty fucking ideas, like,
I think it's impossible to move someone that far forward and they not be completely fucking, I don't want to say irrelevant, just, I don't know, out of touch with, because there'd be no way for them to be in line with today. You can't be that far forward thinking.
Well, no, who could? Because, like, I'm barely forward thinking enough to survive in today's society.
Yeah.
So,
no, I just mean it would be outlandish, like, giving him an interview now, you'd be like, Jesus.
Yeah. I feel like sometimes I feel like we need some of the, like, basic fucking ideas, wisdom to come out. Like, yeah, not like we don't need to revert back to how it was back then or anything like that, but just like things that people don't talk about anymore that are actually cornerstones of, like, to have the people who literally didn't have free speech and that basically created it talk to you about free speech in the modern era where it's almost under attack again in a lot of different ways, like from different people. Like, these people think these people shouldn't be allowed to speak publicly, and these people feel the same way about them. Like, just the fact that we've reverted back to some of the old ideas that are that predate actual liberty. And I'm not saying, like, I'm not trying to be one of those guys, like, fucking give me your liberty, fucking, don't tread on me, fucking flag in my front yard shit. But
those flags are almost never in their front yard. They're like in the room where no one can see them. Yeah. Ironically.
But what I think is missing sometimes is people who actually understand, like, what it's like to not have that and what it's like to put that into motion and, like, define it. You know what I mean? Define it fully for everybody. And that's another interesting thing too, because it'd be nice to know what they actually meant when they threw together the Constitution, because there's so much argument about the founders' intent, blah, blah, blah. And yeah, you might think, well, the founders' intent is kind of irrelevant 200 some years later. You know what I mean? Like 300 years later. It's kind of irrelevant. But at the same time, just to know what they actually did mean, because they might, like, the fucking Democrats might have it right. Maybe they didn't mean it as literally as they said it. Maybe it was supposed to be, like, maybe it was supposed to be more of a guideline than a literal fucking word for word, thing. Like, they didn't know what we would have this day and age in terms of, like, the Second Amendment.
Yeah. Well, I mean, just the fact that there's amendments, and it's almost impossible for us to make a new amendment now. So it's like, it's meant to be a living, changing document, yet we can't do that anymore. So we're gonna just fall behind.
Yeah, and I'm curious to know what those founders would have thought of that. Like, that it is so hard to change the Constitution, and that that people is basically because of that, because of it being so hard to change. That's why people are saying it's outdated and shit. But truly, it's not outdated. In fact, those guys back then, as dumb as they might seem if they were brought back to life right now, those motherfuckers had the foresight to know that they didn't know shit, and that it would need to be changed over time, and that things would need to be, they put that in there specifically because they knew times would change and people would have different ideas about what they wanted for their own country. Like they purposely put that in there so that the country could continue, and so that people wouldn't be like, well, this shit's all outdated, let's throw it out.
You're romanticizing.
Why do you think they put in amendments? Why do you think they put in an amendment process?
Okay, I think that they basically, what I am going to give them credit for, is that they were humble enough to realize that there might be more that we need to add. There might be something else we've missed.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think that they thought like, oh, future generations will think the exact opposite of us, and who are we to tell them? I don't think it was like that.
Well,
because if you give power to anyone, they change.
Sure, but they understood that too, I think. You don't think so? Like, these are guys...
I don't even think they thought that. They thought that there's probably more we want to add. There's probably more we can gain.
Listen. You're picturing guys that are really dumb. Okay?
I'm not picturing guys that are really dumb. I'm picturing guys that have power.
Okay, but literally, I'm pretty sure some of those guys were extremely idealistic.
Oh, no. There's definitely a few geniuses among them, too. It's just...
Yeah, but not even that.
Power, though.
Not even that. I think a few of them, at least. And I think Washington was one of them. I think it was idealistic enough to see these things, like, ahead of time. Like, to be like... To go against the grain, okay? Like, they just got out of this. And you're right, most people with power will do exactly what the people before them with power did that they complained about before they gained the power.
Mm-hmm.
For example...
Wisconsin.
No, Wisconsin. For example, executive orders.
Yeah.
Okay? The right, the conservatives, absolutely hate executive orders when Obama does executive orders. But as soon as they take over, they're all about the executive orders. I mean, no problem with them whatsoever. In fact, all the fans of the people in office will defend executive orders. Like they weren't just condemning them 6 months before. You know what I mean? Like... And I think that there were some extreme idealists back then. I think there was a lot of them. I think that's why they were where they were in the founding of the country, because they were idealistic enough to say, like, yeah, we have the power, but we're not going to have too much power. We're purposely going to limit our power, and we're going to make it a point to give Congress most of the power rather than the executive branch, Stuff like that. And I feel like...
I feel like the only reason it happened is it was a compromise between people that were there. And if there were a few less people, it would have gone the exact same fucking way. I feel like it was just a fight that ended up where the cards finally fell, it was okay.
Okay,
I don't think it was some giant thing. So, it was a lot of planning and...
Okay, so you think there was like a... This took several years to draft the actual constitution.
I know, yeah. We were a country before we had,
right.
everything set up.
Okay, so...
I think it was like, 17 years before we had a constitution?
So you think that there were people... Okay, say there was like a very slight minority of people, like 48% of the people, 46% of the people that were gone... No, I don't like that. I don't like that. That might not work out well, whatever. And then, so eventually, because maybe they decided at the Constitutional Convention or whatever, you needed a majority to decide shit, like a 2/3 majority or something. And then the people who were in the majority said, all right, look, dude, we'll give you a chance to change it later if you fucking really want to. We'll throw that in there for you.
I mean, that could have easily happened. Like, it's a bargaining chip.
So, like, we're going with this for now, but we'll throw in this this deal where you can change things if you really want to over time. If the country wants to, if they agree with you, they can change it. Maybe. I feel like they came together enough to fucking do it, though.
I feel like the other part of it was to lose everything, so...
I don't know if there's another country with a better set of posted ideals for their country, like, as a constitution. I think in that sense it's pretty genius.
I don't know. I think American exceptionalism is a myth.
Maybe. But then again, like I said, like, tell me another country that has a constitution that it guarantees more rights to individuals. Like, I'd like to see it. I'd like to, like, you point that out and let me read their constitution and compare it to ours.
Tell me when we actually protect the rights here. We don't have the same rights we pretend we have.
Maybe not, but I'm saying.
Well, like,
I think
we have them.
I think we're closer to it than any other country is in terms of getting.
But it's not horseshoes. We either have it or we don't. It's a binary thing. Like,
you're right. We should have it, but
we don't. So we can't take credit for it.
But at the same time, no. We're just talking about the founders, and I'm saying that they wanted us to have it, regardless if we do or not.
All right. Well, that's a fair point.
Like these guys, I think, were forward-looking and very smart. Like most of them. Like I said, you should look up.
I just feel like an interview would be hilarious.
It would, absolutely. If nothing else, just for the fact that like so much is available now that wasn't available then, and like they were like, wait a minute, what? People are living to 93 years old? Like, what is this? What are these old, decrepit fucking people limping around? We didn't have that back then. We died at 46 years old.
De-lousing, you say?
Right. Right. What's AIDS?
All right.
All right. So we're at your number one then?
Yes. Okay. This is going to make me sound fucking awful. So...
I already saw your list, you son of a bitch.
Oh, God. So you know it's awful.
I do.
Okay, the idea behind it's not, though. So, the number... God, it's hard to even say. The number one person...
Is it hard to say? You're not saying the N-word. Like...
No, that's not what I'm... Obviously. It's just stupid to say the sentence.
Okay.
Okay. So the number one sentence... Okay, the number one person...
This is the number one sentence that will ever be uttered.
Oh, fuck. Okay. So I would bring back Hitler. Just so.
I love how quickly you fucking... I would bring back Hitler. Just so
we could torture him back to death.
Oh, is that the reason?
No, he got out of it easy. After that, you just fucking take a bullet? No.
Yeah.
It needs to be slow.
It's funny because...
It needs to be televised. It needs to be awful.
Yeah, don't beat yourself up too much because that was going to be on my list. I actually left them off the list completely. Like I said, I went with the like no-brainers that I had. The first ones that popped to mind, I did not go with because, like I said, I thought you might have them.
I just want to talk about them.
Yeah, that was my thing. When I was thinking of it, it wasn't about just torturing him, but I would have loved to see how it played out. Like, him going into custody, him having a trial. I would have loved to see a public trial.
See, I don't think you could have given him a public trial then. I feel like people would have rallied again. You can't let the charisma out of the bottle. Because, I mean, he actually did have that. He was able to form cults.
Of course.
You gotta shut that down.
But it was obviously apparent that the military might was held by the people with better ideals than him. Like it.
Well, yeah, but I mean, I'm not saying like they'd be able to full on militarily. They just got their asses whooped, but there would have been, you know, terrorist style fucking.
Yeah, a resurgence of pockets of people. Yeah, it did. I mean, honestly, it did. At least that extreme of a version of it did kind of shut the fuck down after the war. Other than, I mean, obviously it was a different ideological system, but like the Russians, like the communism killed far more people than fascism did, and that's just a fact. Like it did. But it was like a tyrannical government. So like that sort of like not caring about the people that didn't matter or whatever, or thinking they're useless in society, and either killing them directly or letting them die off. Like those kind of ideals continued for a little while in some areas, but that whole like master race shit, like that kind of died quick when we fucking like once we won that war. And I say we, I mean like most of the world that agreed with decency.
I mean, the shitty part is it should have died after those Olympics. God damn it! Why'd it have to? Why'd you have to be proven the same fucking thing twice?
Yeah, I think that, but that's what I would have liked to see, is like we get to see how he reacted to being imprisoned, what his like, I don't know, what does he try to do?
Not today. You couldn't have him in prison today, because he'd have rights today to where he could probably have a fucking podcast. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, of course he could. Of course he could have rights, because he did have rights. I mean, like, and we would have given him a trial of some sort, even if it was a military trial, a wartime military trial. Like,
the only trial he should have gotten is a medical trial, to where we fucking experiment and do things.
Okay, I mean, fair enough, and that could have been decided. I mean, honestly, like I said, we're the only country that has as many individual rights as we have, and it probably wouldn't have been decided by just us.
Allegedly, Brett.
No, it's a fact. Like, okay, we don't...
What's a fact?
Okay, so what? We don't have them. But I'm saying we're the only country with the ideas to have them. We're the only country that says these are the fucking rights people should have. Everyone else is like, well, there's some rights people shouldn't have. Some people shouldn't be able to say certain things. You can't talk about political leaders or whatever. Like, even Canada, who is so fucking... soft on people, just like we are, like, they still don't have quite as many liberties as we actually have here.
Yeah, but
like,
they're also not going to go bankrupt when they get sick.
Yeah,
but that's cool.
Yeah, but they don't even argue about it. Like, they don't even argue about freedom of speech. They just kind of do it. They're just like, well, we're gonna, from now on, these words aren't okay. We can't say them, and if you say them, you're gonna pay a hefty fine. Like that's just some things that, like,
so,
what other country has that? What other country?
Are you telling me that they have a Demolition Man style thing in Canada?
Yeah, they can declare words illegal, basically, to where they have to be. They can be fined for the language that they use.
Like, just in public?
Yeah, I mean, like, how would they know if you said it when you're in a room?
So that's what I mean. Like you post it online, you can get fined, or if you're just verbally saying things in public.
Yeah, in public, like, say, or online. Yeah, say you're or maybe not online, but say you're a educator or a public speaker of some sort, and you use certain language, like, they can pass. Okay, well, say like in this country. Okay, say Texas passed a law that said in Texas you can't say these things, certain words. Okay, the N-word. Texas, in Texas, which would never happen in Texas, I'm sure. Say Texas passed a law. Okay, we'll say the city of San Francisco passed a law that you cannot use the N-word, and if you are caught publicly saying the N-word and they can prove that you said it, like there's a recording of it or something like that, then you will be fined so much money. Or up into jail if you repeatedly abuse the word. Now, we have a system where our federal law, our Constitution overrides that. It says, no, we have the freedom of speech. So they can't pass that law. In Canada, they don't have that. So if an institution or what do they call them there? Not states. Province passes a law that's unconstitutional. Like, they don't have that. So, and they have no law specifically that guarantees them the freedom of speech in Canada. So there are certain things you can't say.
Well, that's because, I mean, if you think about this, like, freedom of speech shouldn't even be absolute, because there comes a time to where what you're saying is endangering other people.
Yeah.
Like, your freedom can impede upon other people's freedom.
Yeah, well, that's the argument, right? That's the argument. But
no, I mean, is it wrong, though?
I don't know. Is it? Because words are words, right? It's only actions. Okay, so if those words lead to actions, that's a different thing. But do you...
That's hate speech.
Right.
Well, it becomes that when action is implied to...
Right.
Or incited based on...
Right. Call for violence, stuff like that. However, I mean, I don't necessarily... I'm not sure. I'm back and forth on it. Whether or not...
Yeah, I mean, it's there's weird situation there, but...
I'm back and forth on it, like, even outlawing hate, quote-unquote hate speech, because it can be redefined at any moment. And that anything that you can redefine at any moment doesn't seem like it should be an absolute law. Like, that's scary.
Amendments, buddy.
No, but that's scary as shit. No, but it's scary as shit.
Part
like,
is also the scary part.
Yeah, like, but how do you put context in there? Like, you couldn't. Yeah. You almost couldn't include context in a law. It's too hard.
Well, I mean, just like in Germany, you can't have a Nazi flag. You're not allowed legally. I think that's warranted.
Yeah, and like I said, but they're not us. I mean, whatever. They don't have that. That's kind of my point, though. You don't have all the same laws. Okay, but
we should learn from other places that have been around a lot longer than us. Like,
maybe I don't.
That's the whole thing of how, like, we're better just because. Like, no, we're not. We're fucking way down the list on just about everything that matters.
No, but listen.
We're not the first in any of the STEM shit. We're not first in anything anymore.
We're not.
Except for the military. That's it.
The military and the fact that we have individual freedoms that a lot of other countries don't have.
No, that we talk about individual freedoms that we don't really have.
Okay, but listen. The freedom of speech. I go back and forth, like I said, whether or not things like quote unquote hate speech should be illegal, because I feel like you should be able to have a battle of ideas. And if you have really shitty ideas, you should combat them with good ideas rather than shutting them down. Because if you shut down a bad idea, it pushes it underground and it gives it more strength. Like, that's my... If you pretend it doesn't exist, or you say it's so horrible that you cannot say it's against the law, then you have pockets of people building up around the fact that something is illegal, that something that they don't feel should be illegal. You know, you get more support, because then you get people saying, well, I stand for the fact that you should be able to say whatever you want to say. I don't necessarily agree with the words you're using, but I do agree with the idea that you can say them. And then you get more of a groundswell of fucking energy around that idea. You get a lot more supporters for... It's horrible, because to stand up for freedom of speech means you have to stand up for people saying really shitty things. But at the same time, if you don't do that...
I mean, but dude, we live in a time where you can redefine your own reality to make you feel how you want to feel.
Yeah.
So, like shutting something down doesn't shut something down now. Proving something absolute with proof doesn't work. So, there's really no rules anymore.
No, there is, Justin, because as a country, you don't think we're way more not fucking neo-Nazi than we are neo-Nazi? Like, are we way more.
Oh no, we're for sure way more not. I mean, we just
Right, and I
we're
think
obviously way more not. But
I think that 95% of the population looks at that as like a fringe, fucking shitty, horrible thing.
I don't. I think probably 40% of the population is like, yeah, they're pretty shitty, but you know what? I can't totally disagree with them.
Okay, well, I'm not. I might be an optimist, but you are definitely the opposite end of that spectrum. You're the pessimist of it. I definitely don't think 40% of the country looks favorably upon white supremacists. Like,
I believe that 60 million believe that brown people want to get them.
Want to get them?
You want to get them. I don't even have to be more specific because that's what they were sold.
Yeah, you will not replace us. Ridiculous. Okay.
Oh, Jesus Christ, it is one something, and you have an entire list.
Yeah,
keep on moving.
I'll be quick about it because I have a couple of the same as you.
Oh, okay, nice.
So, all right. Let me get on with my list. All right. I didn't have it in a particular order, but that's just how I do things. So, number 5, I had Lee Harvey Oswald.
Oh, Jesus, yeah. Find out what the fuck happened.
Yeah, and that's just to find out exactly. Like, and you know what? Knowing how much of a crazy person he seemed to be, like, probably wouldn't get.
Yeah.
You wouldn't be sure of the truth anyway.
We have experts that would basically know when he's lying. We have modern ways of finding. I mean, I'd hope. I mean, well, I say that, but we used to do enhanced interrogation, and we got a lot of lies.
Yeah, we don't have admissible in court versions, but we do have ways to tell if people are being dishonest, I guess. But I don't know. I mean, there'd be better ways, I think, if he was actually alive to check, because he would let stuff loose, like references or whatever. Like, he would be like, yeah, well, this guy said this or whatever, and we'd be able to check it, like nowadays.
But we didn't really like turn the bullets like unwanted. You're like, holy fuck, we knew it.
Well, yeah. He said he was a patsy, but we didn't get any real details on it.
Yeah.
But you know, if he were to be alive today, we could be like, well, what are the details? Then we could look into that. But like, right,
it's like the deathbed confession of the guy from the in the FBI was saying that he had knowledge that the guy was an actual patsy and that it was. The government had him killed. Right,
and you say it at the last minute, and it's like, well, what are the details? Oh, you're dead. Fuck.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I had a couple of the same as you, so, and we don't have to go through a whole lot of them, but, you had George Washington, I had Thomas Jefferson. And that's just because he was, listed on the Constitution as one of the founding fathers, and, like, person who helped write the Constitution. I think it'd be cool to find out what they actually meant. Even if it was wrong, at least we'd be able to declare that, okay, what they thought was kind of fucked up. Like
how mad would they be? They're like, no, man, if you cut off the bear's arms, they make perfect back scratchers.
Exactly. That's kind of what I mean. Like, but when it came to like, okay, is this completely literal, or did you mean for like, did you have any idea about that maybe technology would advance when you wrote this? Like, why did you, is that why you put in the amendments? Or, the stuff we were talking about earlier, like, we could ask him directly. Like, was it because no one could come to an agreement? Or was it because you foresaw that in the future there might be some issues with it?
You want to know why? Because fuck England, and then break something.
Right. Right, and then we would know. We'd be like, all right, so we get it now. Their fucking piece of paper was just fucking, they were just pissed off. So that was all it was. All right, so number 3 is Martin Luther King Jr. And basically, for pretty much the same reasons you said, except for I would mostly just want to see what he would be like in today's society. Like, how would he judge it? Would he judge it that there's been significant progress made, or just the opposite? Would it be like, what the fuck? It's been so long, and you're still this far behind? After all the shit that was done in the 60s, you're still this far behind? Or would he be like, all right, like, you don't know how good you have it. I mean, we don't know. I don't know, but I'd like to hear that. But then another aspect of it is kind of the Jesus thing, where you're saying, like, how would he act if he was introduced to today's society? So, would he still be the same person that you were saying, like the guy who has ultimate tolerance gets hit with a brick and can brush that off? Or would he become a celebrity type?
Yeah.
Would he become an Al Sharpton type person in modern day and age? Or even if, like, say he never died, say he lived through all of this, would he just become like a celebrity preacher? Like a Reverend Al Sharpton type person? Would we view him in that same light? If like all that time had passed and we've lived with him the whole time? I don't know. Anyway, I just thought it was interesting to... That'd be an interesting one. So...
Yeah. Just get judgment on our society.
Yeah, by somebody who had pretty clear judgments of society then, and just like complete difference now, how it is now. Alright. Number 2, I had Thomas Edison, which you also had, so we don't have to really go into that. I feel like it was just, I just like to see how he reacted to what we have now.
Like, I'd be really pissed off. Like, you know, what if we, and like we did, what if we, yes.
Yeah, or like, would, like you said, would he just start innovating off of that? I don't think so, because so much has happened in between. But just the fact that electricity led to all of that, every single thing that we have now. Like, without his invention, none of this shit happens.
Yeah.
And I don't know, just how he would judge it. Would he just be in awe? Like, wow, I can't believe, like, this, like, instant communication and stuff, all because I invented the light bulb? You know what I mean? Like, this led to this? Like, he was picturing just giving people energy. You know what I mean? Like, light and energy and warmth, whatever. Like, I don't think he was picturing the internet. You know what I mean? He wasn't picturing computers in general. Like, without light, we don't have computers. Like, sustainable light, we don't have computers. We don't have anything like that. So, I don't know. It'd be really interesting to see what he thought of what we're doing now. And if he was like, yeah, kind of expected that. Like, I had, you know, I couldn't put an exact name to it, but I had an idea of where this shit was going.
Mm-hmm.
So, that'd be interesting. Number 1, you chose Jesus, and I did not, because I thought it was really obvious. But I chose the Buddha. Because I think that, in contrast to Jesus, I think the Buddha would be left alone today. Like, he would either be one of those guru types who you just heard about sometimes, or he would be like how we view the Dalai Lama.
Mm-hmm.
That would be the Buddha. You know what I mean? Like, if he was alive today. Or otherwise, it would just be, I don't know, he wouldn't face the same shit as Jesus. I don't think there's as much, I don't think across any cultures that there's as much like diverse thinking about a figure as there is Jesus. Like, even the Muslims wouldn't have as much problem with Buddha as they would with, like, Christian beliefs, or Christians wouldn't have as much problem with Buddhist beliefs. I mean, they don't. I mean, today, you don't hear people fucking rallying against Buddhism.
Yeah.
I think it would pretty much be left alone. And it'd be interesting to see how his ideas would play out. Like in society. I don't know. I feel like he'd pretty much be the exact same fucking guy. And that would be interesting to see. And I think it would be a lesson to human beings, like in general. Like this guy, no matter what fucking era he's in, no matter what he's faced with, like because
I don't think we learn lessons anymore.
No, but I think it would be a beacon of sorts.
Yeah.
In terms of not being like we live in a triggered generation, dude. Like everyone is so angry about anything that anyone else says. Like I feel like that dude, because of his core beliefs. I mean, that's why Buddhism, like they're pacifists, dude. Like that's why no one really has a problem with them, except maybe like the Chinese government. Like no one gives a fuck about Buddhists. No one is like, oh, these ideals are fucked up. Like even like atheists, like strong atheists who like believe that religion is a fucking plague. You never hear them being like, yeah, like like the Buddhists, like they're so fucking, they're always like meditating, like it's like they ruin people's ideas and lives, like you never hear that, but you could hear that about.
Well, it's because meditating is something people do for themselves, whereas praying is something people do for themselves, yet give themselves credit for other people's situation.
Yeah. Yeah.
In my opinion.
That's always kind of been my like thing about. Before I realized what like Buddhism was, I always thought it was kind of a selfish religion.
Yeah.
Compared to the other ones, which are supposedly like, altruistic, supposedly. Really, this very selfish religion is like the most altruistic of all of them. Like, because they're harming no one, dude. They're harming no one.
Yeah.
All of the other religions would be harming motherfuckers like it's cool. Like, Buddhists don't harm anybody, dude. In fact, they'll harm themselves on purpose on a world stage rather than hurt someone else. Like, it's crazy. So, I don't know. I think it would be I think it would be an interesting thing to see someone like that. But I don't know if he would become, like I said, I don't know if he'd be like how people view Osho, like a weird guru type.
Oh, yeah.
Who has a commune or whatever. Or...
Yeah, I watched that. That was crazy.
Yeah. It was fucking great. I don't know if he would be viewed like that. I really don't think so. Because I don't think the Buddha would have fucking, 43 Rolls Royces. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I legit think he is one of the people that would be like an uncontroversial person to look to. Like, just like people do, kind of like the Dalai Lama he gets invited to all kinds of shit. Like, with the UN and stuff. Like, I don't know. Because he's a pacifist. Like, they look for Buddhist ideals when it comes to like world government, stuff like that, a lot. Like they don't have a problem with those people, but I don't know, it's different. All the other religions have like a toxicity to them.
Yeah.
That I don't feel like they have. And I feel like
I think it's because of the inward focus actually makes you better, which makes everything around you better, but everything else is based on outward focus. Missionaries, go seek and change and go fucking affect.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, it's
and worse. I think society could learn a lot from and it's not like Buddhists exist, you know what I mean? But to have maybe an ultimate practitioner, like someone who was even better than, I'm not saying I'm like everyone should be Buddhist or something, like I'm not a Buddhist, but I feel like if there was a religion that was acceptable for basically every, like, I wouldn't say it should be enforced for everyone, but I don't think it would be harmful to anyone to practice basically a religion of meditation and looking inward. Like, And I don't know. I just think that's one person the world could benefit from. Like Jesus, there'd be controversy around Jesus. You know what I mean? There'd be all kinds of controversy. There would be literally people trying to kill Jesus. I don't think anyone would be out to kill Buddha. I really don't.
Yeah.
But Muhammad, Jesus...
That's why he'd never leave the goddamn lab.
Yeah. Jesus, Buddha, or Jesus, Muhammad. I don't see the same type of things going down. Like, I feel like there'd be a lot of people out to condemn them and or harm them. Whereas I feel like the Buddha could have a positive impact on the world. So I just like to see it. I think it'd be an interesting person to have back around.
Yeah.
Especially if we could actually witness him being as enlightened as he was. You know what I mean? We could see it for ourselves rather than just hearing 2,500-year-old stories. Kind of like Jesus. Like people are like, oh, he never sinned. Well, like it'd be nice to see that in action. Like I'd like to see that. Like fucking, we're in call out culture, motherfucker. Like you bring Jesus back, like people are they're gonna be on his ass.
Yeah. Like, did you see that YouTube video? He totally fell in the pool. Didn't even walk across it.
Yeah, so I'd like to see Buddha, like, who is supposedly at such an enlightened state that literally he didn't fear death, like, nothing bothered him, like, nothing... I don't know, he was on a different level of existence. Like, I'd like to see what that looked like modern day.
Probably just looks like a fat dude.
Yeah, you know, it's funny. Buddha wasn't fat.
Oh, he wasn't?
No.
Who the fuck made that up?
The Buddha statue is a symbol. It's symbolism. And the reason he's fat or chubby, he's not like obese. The reason he's fat is because it symbolizes contentment.
Oh, okay.
He's full and he's happy and he's healthy. He's filled up. And that's why you see that. But yeah, the Buddha was actually really fucking... Supposedly, he would have been, from the stories that they told about him, very skinny and stringy. He went through periods of time where he fasted for like months at a time and shit like that. So he would have been...
Yeah. Jesus. That'd be hard to watch.
Yeah, well, when
It'd be harder to follow the guy. I like thinking of him as fat.
Well, when he fully attained his enlightenment or whatever, the way he did that was through like this. He sat under a tree and meditated basically for a ridiculous amount of time. And I think the story is, and obviously I'm sure it's embellished, was that he survived on 1 grain of rice per day. So I don't think I could imagine that guy being chubby in any stretch of the word chubby. And he was Indian. There's not a lot of obese Indians, so...
I don't know. It sounds a lot like Supreme Leader has no need for butthole.
Right. Right. 1 grain of rice per day for like 7 years.
No.
That's only a few thousand grains of rice. Like that's nothing. Yeah. Anyway, that's my top 5. And we've done 1 hour and 18 minutes.
All right.
So I think that's it. All right. Yeah. You can find
What's
us
that, number 2 for the year?
Number 2 for the year. Our goal is 25. So my goal is 25, and you're going to help me reach it. So, yeah, I've got a plan in place now to get these podcasts on all of the podcast apps, like the big ones, like iTunes and Stitcher and Google Podcasts and stuff like that. So stay tuned for that. Hopefully I'll be able to get a much bigger reach, and we'll get more than like 3 to 4 views per, or 3 to 4 listens per podcast. So hopefully that works out. And that's it. Thanks for listening. We're going to try to do, I think, what did we come up with? Every first and third Saturday of each month?
Yeah. Okay. I think that's the plan.
So we're going to shoot for that. So look forward to that. And if you happen to be listening, hold us accountable to that, because it's important. Because we're really kind of like what's the word, like lackadaisical. We're like we're not very good with sticking to things at all. It's kind of ridiculous. So hold our feet to the fire, and we'll keep doing it. And we'll see you next time. Thank you for listening. See you later.